Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Dental Assisting Council meeting. My name is Jerry Fowler, and I'm Chair of the Dental Assisting Council. Today is Thursday, August 25th, 2022. This Dental Assisting Council meeting is being held in person with additional public participation through WebEx. For all those who wish to participate online, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided on the agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code will be provided as part of your connection to the meeting. During each call for comments, the Dental Assisting Council members and speakers, we will assure that all comments can be accommodated and are heard before proceeding with the agenda. This is an official meeting for the Dental Assisting Council. The Council welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it's the Council's intent to ask for public comments prior to the Council taking action on any agenda item. The DCA moderator will explain the process for providing public comment shortly. For individuals participating via WebEx, when called upon, the moderator will give the individual permission to unmute themselves, and they will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The moderator will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the 2 minutes have lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a total time limit may be imposed. We ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with testimony already provided, please just state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this meeting.
This is the moderator of the meeting. For the purposes of today's meeting, when the council chair opens public comment, members of the public who would like to provide public comment at our DCA location in Sacramento can approach the table and microphone at the front of the room. For those joining us via WebEx, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature to facilitate public comment. When the council reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box. This is typically in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Additionally, you can also use the raise hand feature by clicking the little hand icon next to your name. I will then call on the individual and give the individual permission to unmute their microphone. Each individual will have 2 minutes to speak and make their comments. At the conclusion of 2 minutes, the individual's microphone will be muted, and we will move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is only being used as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the council. Questions submitted using this feature will not be answered. When making your comment, please make sure that the comment is directed at the host in the dropdown. While you are free to express criticism or negative views, for the sake of members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the council. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item.
Thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask the board staff to call the roll.
Good morning. My name is Marella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, present.
Fowler.
Fowler, present.
Miyazaki. Miyazaki, absent. Olagi.
Olagi, present.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, present.
Pliss.
Pliss, present.
Reed Espinoza.
Reed Espinoza, present.
A quorum has been established.
Thank you. We would now like to move on to agenda item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Before we open public comment on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind everyone that public comment should address the council as a whole and not individual members. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the council members, but it is not a discussion between the council members and the public. The only action council members can take right now is to listen to comments and decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. Though this may seem at times like the council members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure the rules of the Open Meeting Act that are followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the council's mission. In the interest of time, as we have done in the past, we would like to request that public comments not repeat statements made by the prior commenter. If you are in support of a statement made by a prior individual and your comments have already been made, please just state your name or association and your support for the previous commenter. Legislative hearings regularly use this practice as it is a good way to ensure that we can hear from everyone today. Are there any in-person public comments?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Joan Greenfield, representing the EF Association. I think it perhaps would behoove DAC, if it is legal to do so, and particularly the two members of DAC who are RDA EFs, to take a serious look at the new written examination. I know that you have the office, EOPS, doing analysis of questions and stuff, but being EFs, I think that you would be aware of the educational background that you all had to become an EF, and that it would appear from third parties. I was contacted by a lot of students from many other programs to try to explain certain questions or things that were on the exam. It would appear that not only did whoever wrote the exam not look at the educational requirements to do a program, but kind of got off track in a number of areas. So that would be a suggestion, a recommendation perhaps to consider in the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Greenfield. Seeing there are no other in-person public comments, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access that feature and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please. All right, thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action on the May 12, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there any council member discussion? Okay, no? All right, seeing no council member discussion, is there a motion and a second regarding the May 12th meeting minutes?
Tracy Reed Espinoza, motion to agree with minutes. Deandra S. Robbins, motion to agree to approve minutes.
Okay, so the motion is to accept the meetings as is. Tracy Reed Espinoza motioned, and Deandra Epsfitz seconded. Okay. Before we call, yep. Is there any in-person public comments regarding agenda item 3? Not seeing any. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Board staff, will you please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item?
This is Morella Turan. The motion is approve the May 12, 2022 meeting minutes. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, approve.
Fowler.
Fowler, approve.
Miyazaki. Miyazaki, absent. Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, yes.
Pliss.
Bliss, yes.
Reed Espinoza.
Reed Espinoza, yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to agenda item 4, update on dental assisting examination statistics. I'm going to ask Ricky Parks, dental assisting program analysis, to present this agenda item.
Good morning, Chair Fowler and members of the committee. My name is Ricky Parks. I'm the Dental Assisting Program Analyst, and I'll be introducing agenda item 4 with you today. Currently, the board offers 4 written examinations: the Registered Dental Assistant, General and Law Ethics written exam, the Registered Dental Assistant in Extended Functions written exam, and the Orthodontic Assistant Permit written exam, as well as the Dental Sedation Assistant written exam. The tables beginning on page 1 of the memo or page 15 of the meeting materials include candidates that have tested in fiscal year 2021, 2022, fiscal year 2020, 2021, and fiscal year 2019, 2020. The data provided captures the past 3 fiscal years in their entirety. Additionally, you'll find a breakdown of each examination by first-time and repeat candidates and their passing and failing scores within those fiscal years. The final RDA-EF clinical and practical examination took place in August 2021, and those statistics are represented in fiscal year 2021, 2022. There is no action required on this agenda item, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
So is there any council member discussion? Not seeing any. Is there any in-person public comments? No. Are there any public comments? Oh. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Okay, so we'll now move on to agenda item number 5, update on dental assisting licensing statistics. I'm going to ask Paige Regali, Licensing and Examination Unit Manager, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Fowler, and good morning, council members. My name is Paige Regali. I'm the Licensing and Examination Unit Manager at the board, and I will be presenting agenda item 5, which begins on page 17 of the meeting materials. This memo is an overview of the dental assistant license application statistics and the dental assistant license status statistics, which provides an overview of current and active, current and inactive, delinquent, and canceled licenses. Beginning on page 25 of your meeting materials, there is a table which provides statistics on population and current and active registered dental assistant licenses by county for fiscal years 2019 through June 30th of 2022. Modoc County has the highest population per RDA, and Alpine County has the lowest population per RDA. There is no action requested, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Are there any council member comments? Okay. Not seeing any council comments. Are there any in-person public comments? Okay. This is going to be a very short meeting. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 6, update on the status of surveys regarding registered dental assistant and expanded functions, administration of local anesthesia and nitrous oxide. I myself, Jerry Fowler, Chair, Dental Assisting Council, will provide this report. So during the November 2021 Dental Assisting Council meeting, the Council established a 2-member working group, which included Jerry Fowler, Council Chair, and Tracy Reed Espinoza, Council Vice Chair, to create relevant, quantitative, and qualitative survey questions to send to supervising RDA-EF dentists, as well as RDA-EFs, to assess the importance of adding local anesthesia and nitrous oxide to the RDA-EF scope of practice. At the January 2022 meeting, the Council delegated authority of the working group to work with Office of Professional Examination Services, OPES, to finalize the surveys and bring them back at a future Dental Assisting Council meeting. At the May 2022 Dental Assisting Council meeting, the Council reviewed the survey, which included the OPES recommendations, and delegated authority to the 2-member working group to work with OPES to finalize the surveys to distribute to stakeholders. And on August 8th, 2022, the working group and the board staff met with OPES to discuss the finalization and distribution of the survey. OPES stated that they would administer the survey to dentists and RDAEFs via SurveyMonkey. They will monitor survey responses, provide follow-up, analyze the results, and provide the board with a memo summarizing the results. It was determined that the anticipated release date of the survey will be early September 2022. The survey will be open for licensees for a period of 1 month, after which OPES will compile and analyze the data and provide a summary of the results that they anticipate to be completed in advance of the November council meeting, November 2022 council meeting. Is there any council member discussion regarding this agenda item?
Tracy Montez, putting on my OPS hat. I would just like to thank the council for working with OPS on the survey. OPS is known for their examinations, but we also do survey work. It's a lot of fun for the staff, so we really appreciate the collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no comments from the council, is there any in-person public comments? No? Is there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or click the raise hand icon. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item 7, presentation from Dental Assisting National Board regarding dental auxiliary certifications for board licensure. I'm going to ask Ms. Regali to introduce this agenda item.
Good morning again, and thank you, Chair Fowler. Today, I will be presenting Agenda Item 7, presentation from the Dental Assisting National Board regarding dental auxiliary certifications for board licensure, which begins on page 30 of your meeting materials. This memo includes information relative to the functions of the board relating to licensing and oversight of dental auxiliaries. Today, representatives from Danby will be providing information for your consideration regarding their educational requirements to sit for exams and/or certification courses, how applicants may qualify for certifications, and other available information. Upon completion of the presentation, staff are requesting the council to consider creating a 2-member working group to review the issues brought up, research dental auxiliary certification and education requirements in other states, and review the applicable statutes and regulations regarding board approval of RDA and RDAEF educational programs and for potential amendments. I'd now like to turn it over to Ms. Landsberg.
Thank you. Oh, hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? All right. Hello, I just want to start off by saying thank you for inviting Danby to give a presentation to the Dental Assisting Council. My colleagues and I are all very excited to participate. I am Catherine Landsberg, Director of Government Relations with Danby, and I've been with Danby for 17 years. And some of my colleagues are joining the meeting remotely, so I'd like them to introduce themselves, if that's possible. Can they be allowed to introduce themselves?
This is the moderator. I promoted them both up to panelists, so they should be able to unmute their microphones now.
Okay.
Good morning. This is, now that you see me, this is Aaron White. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at the Dental Assisting National Board.
Oh, this is the moderator. Laura, your microphone is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I thought I was on the phone. This is Laura Skarnoulis. I am the Chief Executive Officer for Danby and the Dale Foundation, and we're very happy to be here, so thank you for having us.
And this is the moderator. I want to just interrupt real quick. Would you prefer that we, the moderators, flip through the slide, or would you like control of the slides yourselves?
Well, you can do the slides.
Okay, if you can just say next slide when we need to go to the next one, that would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so next slide. And then the next slide again. Okay, so for today's discussion, we'll start off by giving a brief introduction to Danby and its affiliate, the Dale Foundation. Then I'll tell you about Danby certification, especially Danby's Cda certification, and what is required to earn Danby certification. We'll take a look at which states recognize Danby certification and how Danby assists and partners with those states. And then finally, we'll say a few words about the present challenges facing the dental community as it relates to the dental assisting workforce and what we're focusing on for the future. Next slide, please. So the Dental Assisting National Board, or Danby, is the ADA-recognized national certification board for dental assistants. Danby's Certified Dental Assistant, or CDA certification, was first conferred in 1948. Danby exams are recognized or required to qualify to perform specified dental assisting functions in 38 states, D.C., the U.S. Air Force, and the Department of Veterans Affairs, and there are currently more than 35,000 individuals who hold certification from Danby. Next slide, please. Danby currently administers 5 certification programs for dental assistants, and they are Certified Dental Assistant, which I've already mentioned, Certified Orthodontic Assistant, Certified Preventive Functions Dental Assistant, Certified Restorative Functions Dental Assistant, and National Entry-Level Dental Assistant. And I will say more about each of these later. Next slide, please. I also want to tell you about Danby's affiliate, the Dale Foundation. The Dale Foundation develops quality education and conducts sound research to promote oral health, offers interactive courses and resources to advance the dental team and help dental assistants prepare for Danby exams. So that includes online review courses and practice tests and materials such as those. And then the Dale Foundation's also been piloting an entry-level dental assisting curriculum, and that will be introduced in 2023. Next slide, please. Danby and the Dale Foundation also both collaborate with the Organization for Safety, Asepsis, and Prevention, or OSAP, on projects related to dental infection prevention and control. The Dale Foundation and OSAP have developed a certificate program in dental infection prevention and control, which consists of a comprehensive series of online modules, followed by an assessment. And then Danby and OSAP have developed 2 certification programs. One is Certified in Dental Infection Prevention and Control, and the other is Dental Industry Specialist in Infection Prevention and Control. And for more information about any of those offerings, you can visit dentalinfectioncontrol.org. Next slide, please. So we were asked to talk about what a person needs to do to earn Danby certification. And in its simplest terms, a person must meet eligibility requirements and then pass a standardized exam. We deliver our exams on computer, either via online remote proctoring or in person at professional testing centers through a third-party vendor, which is Pearson VUE. And then once a person is certified, they must maintain certification by completing CE requirements. So we'll go into a lot more detail about each of those items in a moment, but I just wanted to show you this very straightforward framework at the outset. Next slide, please. I will also say a few words about the general principles used in the development of all Danby certification programs. So Danby's CDA and COA certifications are accredited
by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, and to earn accreditation, we must follow certain best practices. I would say the most important thing to note about our practices is that our certification exam content is based on a nationwide job task analysis. So it's not tied to a specific course or curriculum, but it's based on surveys of what dental assistants are, that reveal what dental assistants are doing in actual practice. So it's very, you're testing people on a body of knowledge that they need to do their jobs and not on a specific course. Also, in addition, we do frequent content validation studies, passing score studies. We have security, well, a high level of physical security at the exam sites, but also we do statistical analysis to make sure, to try to detect cheating and that kind of thing. And then we have processes and procedures that ensure fairness and reliability. Next slide, please. Now I want to talk about Danby's Cda certification. As you may know, there is no uniformity in the regulation of dental assisting across the country. It varies very greatly from state to state. But despite that, we are able to develop a certification that reflects what dental assistants are doing in actual practice nationwide. And based on responses of a large number of dental assistants to our content validation surveys, we're able to get this, develop the content that is relevant for certification. And so it's really your certification, the dental assistant's certification. It belongs to you. And Danby's job is to be the steward of that information and to make sure your certification continues to be rigorous and of the high quality that it should be. Next slide, please. So Danby's Cda certification consists of 3 component exams. There's radiation health and safety, which is 80 questions, infection control, which is 80 questions, and the general chairside exam, which is 95 questions. Next slide, please. The 3 components may be taken all in one administration or individually or in several available combinations. The component exams must be passed within a 5-year period to earn certification. And there are no eligibility requirements to take the RHS and ICE exams, but to take the GC exam, a candidate must meet eligibility requirements or any combination that includes the GC exam. Next slide, please. So the eligibility requirements for the GC exam are, there's 3 pathways. Pathway 1 is be a graduate of a dental assisting program accredited by the Commission on Dental Accreditation. Pathway 2 is complete 3,500 hours of dental assisting work experience in a 2 to 4 year period and hold a high school diploma or equivalent. And then pathway 3 is not as commonly used, but it's a pathway for people who are formally certified or who are enrolled in or graduates of dental school or hold a dental degree from another country or from the United States, or graduate or are enrolled in a post-baccalaureate program that's affiliated with the dental school that Danby accepts. And then all the pathways require candidates to hold current CPR certification, and a national exam candidates are required to answer background information questions. Next slide, please. Danby certification is valid for 1 year and must be renewed annually. And then to renew, certificants must complete 12 continuing education hours. And there are some specifics about 1 hour in the OSHA bloodborne pathogen standards and 2 hours in dental infection prevention and control. Maintain a Danby accepted CPR card, answer background information questions annually, and of course, submit an annual renewal fee. Next slide, please. So I didn't want to put up slides showing you the content of Danby exams because that doesn't really lend itself well to a PowerPoint presentation. So I've provided a handout that contains abbreviated outlines for all of our exams, and you should have received that handout at the beginning of the meeting. And there's even more information. Those are still abbreviated. There's even more detailed information available in the full outline, which can be found on our website, or if I can provide copies of that to the board staff for distribution to the council members if you'd like to see those. Next slide, please. So several years ago, Danby introduced an entry-level certification because it became clear that there was a need for dental assistants who had some education or work experience, but who are not yet eligible for the Cda certification to be able to demonstrate their acquired knowledge and their commitment to dental assisting. And we also hope in providing this stepping stone early in their careers to encourage them to stay in the dental assisting profession. Next slide, please. So Danby's National Entry-Level Dental Assistant, or NELDA certification, consists of 3 component exams. 2 of them are the same as the CDA components, RHS and ICE, and the third component is Anatomy, Morphology, and Physiology, which is 80 questions. Next slide, please. For NELDA, the components may be taken all in one administration or individually or in several combos, but the component exams must be passed within a 3-year period to earn certification. And there are no eligibility requirements to take any of these 3 exams, but to earn the NELDA certification, a candidate must demonstrate that they meet the eligibility requirements. And I haven't put up a slide about the eligibility requirements for NELDA, but it is on the handout, but I'll just mention that the NELDA pathways include post-secondary education that's not quota accredited, but is found within an institution that has another U.S. Department of Education recognized accreditation, and also high school level education. But it seems likely that the current workforce shortage is going to bring about a shift in how we as stakeholders collectively understand what the profession needs. And so I want to ask Erin White, Danby's Chief Operating Officer, to say a few words about what Danby and the Dale Foundation may do to evaluate and prepare for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, everybody, for allowing us to present. Just a quick snapshot of where Danby is at, and Laura will speak a little bit on this to conclude the presentation. But we understand not only is there a shortage in dental assistants out there, and coupled with the evolution of the numerous new avenues for providing education, we're looking at on a national scale of how to maintain our standards and validity of our process while at the same time opening up these new avenues and innovate in a way that we not only, again, maintain our validity, but open up the process to whether it's underserved communities, diverse populations, to help our patients at the end. So we hope that down the road we'll be able to work with California and some of the needs that you have there.
Okay, thanks, Erin. Next slide, please. So the other 3 certifications that Danby administers are Certified Orthodontic Assistant, which it consists of the Infection Control Exam and Orthodontic Assisting, the Certified Preventive Functions Dental Assistant, which has 3 exams, coronal polishing, sealants, and topical fluoride, and Certified Restorative Functions Dental Assistant, which has 4 exams, impressions, temporaries, sealants, which is the same sealants exam as in preventive, and restorative functions. So again, I have provided handouts that provide details on the eligibility requirements and renewal requirements for all of these that you can look at your leisure. Next slide, please. So which states recognize or require Danby certifications or Danby's certificates of knowledge-based competence? So when a person takes the RHS or ICE exam, we kind of consider that as a kind of standalone demonstration of knowledge of that topic, and so we call that, we issue a certificate, which we call a certificate of knowledge-based competence. So there are 38 states and DC that currently recognize or require Danby certifications or component exams to meet requirements for performing specified dental assisting duties. You see Wisconsin just was added this year, and that's why it's a different color. And I'm from Illinois, so I don't know if you know this, but Wisconsin is famous for their cheese, and so whenever I have a chance to make Wisconsin yellow on a map, I always do so. So what this map shows that we've got pretty good coverage of the country. Danby, and I think now's a good time to kind of address the portability topic. So Danby's certification provides, I think, the best opportunity we have right now to promote some kind of uniformity by implementing a pathway based on Danby certification. Even if other pathways also continue to be recognized, you're giving dental assistants who move from one state to another the best chance of not having to return to square one. And, you know, people don't like to go backwards, so if they're likely to leave the profession if it's too hard to continue, if they have to go back to the beginning. And we're not in a time when we can afford to lose all that talent. So there are approximately 34,000 holders of current Cda certification nationwide, and adding an ability for somebody who holds Cda certification to kind of have a leg up in getting the RDA could be very helpful to dental assistants who move to California from other states, dental assistants transitioning from military to the civilian workforce, military spouses, dental assistants in neighboring states who live within commuting distance of your state, and also California dental assistants who move to other states. So even though you hate to lose those dental assistants, a person who knows that they're not going to be able to take their credential and go to another state with it might choose just not to do that job at all and go into another field. So it's also, as counterintuitive as it may seem, it also helps to think about those people. So I just want to emphasize again that recognizing a national credential is a step in the direction of uniformity for the dental assisting profession. Next slide, please. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about state recognition. That previous slide was all the states that recognize any of our certifications or exams, but to break it down, 32 states and DC recognize the Cda certification in one way or another as part of their licensing requirements or as a prerequisite for enrollment in expanded functions courses, or in some states, if you're a CDA, the dentist can just delegate to you additional functions, or you can work under a different level of supervision. Like in Montana, if you're a CDA, you can't do any different functions, but you can do your job under general supervision. RHS, 24 states and DC recognize or require Danby's RHS exam to qualify to perform dental radiography. And there are 6 states that recognize the ICE exam as a standalone exam, but I've left the green on there just to kind of show that if you've passed the CDA certification, then you've taken the ICE exam. So it's really recognized more broadly, but there are 6 states that call it out as an individual exam. Next slide, please. So when a state recognizes Danby certification, we have a lot of services that we provide to them. The first one I'll talk about is information services. So I think your agenda said that you're going to be researching what other states do, and so we've got a lot of resources related to that. We have a website with a state requirements area, and you can go in there and look state by state at what the dental assisting career ladder is in every state, what the requirements are for each level, and you can click on a PDF and find out what functions are required or what functions are allowed and which ones are prohibited. We've also got all that same information compiled into a book, which is called Career Ladder Templates, and then we have also a state fact booklet, which is excerpts of every Dental Practice Act, all the excerpts from Dental Practice Act and administrative rules that address dental assisting from every state. So it's like 600-something pages, but we don't have that as a print publication. It is a PDF. It's also available for free on our website, but you can't download it. So if you like a downloadable copy, you can contact me. And we also respond to research requests. So like if you had a specific question about a specific function, we could do some research and create custom charts and tables. Next slide, please. Other things that help states out administratively are our online credential verification. So if a state recognizes the CDA certification or the RHS exam, they get applications. They can look up the people online and make sure that they hold the credentials that they say they hold. We have reporting tools that are more detailed. So a state dental board staff can get a login for our website, and then they have the ability to run reports on, a list of people who have earned the CDA in a certain month or over a certain 6 months or whatever your needs are. And then we also can create custom reports. So like sometimes once a year, you have to send a report to the legislature or the governor's office. We can help you out with that as well. Next slide, please. Then I'll talk a little bit about the states that we work with now. Danby develops, so in addition to states that recognize our national exams, Danby develops and administers state-specific exams for the following states: Maryland, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, and Washington. So as much as we prefer that people recognize our national exams, because for the reasons we've already talked about, because it promotes portability and uniformity, over the years there have been cases where it wasn't possible or they had a specific need, and we stepped in and developed a state-specific exam. We also provide administrative and program management services for Arizona and Oregon. So in addition to administering the exam program, we also manage the distribution of the certificates. So we distribute application packets or host the online application. We process certificate applications. We issue and distribute those certificates on behalf of the state, and we provide a point of contact, customer service for candidates. So if they have questions or a problem, they call our staff instead of the dental board staff. And we also provide a streamlined candidate experience. So we have online applications, you can check your status. You can get an online account and check your status. You can get your exam results online. You can schedule your exam appointment online. So everything is easy for the candidate. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I want to turn it over to Laura and to tell you about the work that we're doing to engage stakeholders, to address the current challenges and what we're focusing on for the future. Next slide, please. Laura, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Much of what you see on this slide right now is things that you are probably very well aware of and know and feel within the profession in California. But the workforce shortage has really, when I started this job a year ago, it was the #1 topic that came up as I introduced myself to the various stakeholders throughout the profession. And really what is evidently clear is that there is a need to address it. And we brought a group of stakeholders together in July to talk about this very topic and really talk about it in a broader sense of how do we create the pipeline for the future, create the pipeline for individuals considering dentistry as a whole. Dental assisting is a wonderful entree into the profession, but also to consider it as early as high school and quite frankly, in many of our discussions, it was brought up that we should go even earlier, possibly in middle school. But are there pathways that we currently have for individuals to become certified or to even consider the profession, creating barriers for us to help get qualified individuals into the profession? Hence, that was the innovation, if you will, of the Cda certification a few years back. But one thing that we've recognized is that that is not something that's quote unquote plug and play, and that we are actually developing a curriculum that can accompany that for either high schools or programs to utilize to provide an educational framework for individuals interested in the profession, and then they can be on the path to earn that certification, but also for dental practices or for state societies or other organizations, membership organizations that are interested in providing the dentist to dental offices training resources in order to ensure that the dental assistants are effectively trained and can demonstrate their competence. We recognize that the reduction in the capacity of CODA accredited programs is really it's impacting us now, but it's going to be impacting us much more in the future. Not only are the number of programs decreasing, but the enrollment in dental assisting programs, CODA programs, is decreasing, quite frankly, at an alarming rate. And so at Danby, we are working with our various stakeholders to identify ways to ensure that we have quality dental assistants prepared for the workforce as those programs. We will continue to have the pathway for CODA accredited programs always, but we need to look at alternatives that doesn't degrade the amount or the value of the certification, but can recognize the efforts and the education and the competency that individuals have either earned through education and or on-the-job training. And then, as Catherine's mentioned, and you all, I'm sure, are aware that the pervasive non-uniformity of the scope of practices within state requirements, that provides challenges across the board. And that was the #1 thing that was raised through our stakeholder forum, where we had over 20 different organizations present, from the hygienists to the dental associations to state dental boards to public health entities to medical entities. It was really about how can we utilize the national certification that Danby offers and have that recognized as something that could be portable and an offering that could really help address some of the challenges that exist when there's such variation across the states. So our future focus is really to build a consensus around this model, whatever this model may be. I personally think that we kind of have a model right now, and it's making others aware of it and seeing if it meets their needs. And since we're in this mode right now of re-envisioning the future, we would really appreciate any input or contributions or thoughts and perspectives that you all or any of your stakeholders have as to what kind of modifications or things that should be considered going forward. We want to explore and support the development and promotion of dental assisting education and credentials to secondary level students. We've talked about that. We have this curriculum that we are piloting in 2 different high schools, one in Michigan and one in North Dakota. Those are areas of great need, but we plan to bring this to scale much more in early 2023. Develop strategies that allow for the recruitment of a more diverse workforce. Another element that came up during our stakeholder forum was the underserved populations throughout the country and how the workforce shortages there are felt even that much more. And we're in conversations with the ADA too about their community, I forget the acronym for it, but it's the community-based dental home, if you will, and really integrating a community-based dental center, if you will, and dental assistants play an incredibly important role there for their connection into that community. And it also provides a really interesting opportunity for dental assistants to do a variety of things within the profession. And then consider the new paradigm for education and certification, including micro-credentialing. So this is another thing that I'm sure that is on your radars or that you're hearing about through the various programs. We know that ADEA is looking at the micro-credentialing, stepping up the stacked credentials, if you will. While we have 37,000 dental assistants that are certified, that's only 10 to 11% of all the dental assistants out there. However, we have over 120,000 dental assistants that have taken one or more of our exams. So what is that? What does that represent? And what is that population of people? Is that by taking those exams some sort of what kind of recognition can we give those individuals in a stacked and micro-credential type of model, which is definitely where credentialing for professions is going. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned, we had the forum in July, and there were about 20 different organizations present. And there were some key themes that emerged, and I'm sure through your research to date and more for you all to come, that some of these will resonate with you as well. And what we were looking at was, what are the things that we need to be thinking about, not about yesterday, and really quite frankly, not about today, but what about tomorrow, and how do we plan for the future? So the certification value and growth and awareness there, this is a great venue for us to be able to at least share what is out there, what the profession has out there from a credentialing perspective. we have learned that we have a lot more work to do in that regard, that just people being aware, organizations being aware that this is here. It is built by the profession, it's for the profession, and it recognizes, I think, what was one of the really compelling elements of our certifications is that it is based on a national job analysis, and it is based on relevancy and currency of information and exams and blueprints and input from the various stakeholders, ranging from not just dental assistants, but through the entire dental practices. DSO growth. We actually announced a partnership with Aspen Dental back in the spring, where they're using some of our educational products through the Dale Foundation, as well as offering the RHS exams through us for many of their dental assistants, and they're piloting that. Technology is changing, so how is that impacting not only what we're doing from a certification program offering, but how the dental assistants are doing their work, the generational shifts in the workforce, what this new generation is looking for in their work, and how can we be responsive to that? That is impacting workforce issues. The business model of dentistry is changing, workforce development and education, and then really developing a leadership pipeline. You know, we recognize that retaining individuals and helping them grow within the profession helps build leaders for tomorrow. This is something that ADEA is really struggling with, certainly in the educator side of dental education throughout, whether it's through dental schools or the auxiliaries as well. Next slide, please. So like I said, we would love to invite, and I'm hoping we can open it up for any questions and discussions that you have here. We are opening our doors, we are opening our ears. We want to hear what are people challenged with, how can we help, how can we support each other. As we've heard from Catherine and Aaron and myself, our entire organization is positioning to be planning for the future, not only from a what should our programs look like perspective, but what should we be doing from a pathway perspective, from an education perspective. We're really excited about launching our entry-level education framework curriculum, but also we're investing in our infrastructure to make sure that we have the systems, the processes, in order to deliver on all the things that are the needs of the constituents. That is including the recertification process. You know, when somebody has a Danby certification, their education and their CE is vetted through us, and various organizations or states, they don't have to worry about that. And so we want to make sure that our systems are upgraded and prepared for what we hope is to be able to serve many more constituents going forward, as well as being a resource for individuals and organizations and states to help address this need in the future. So with that, I will think I'm turning it back to Catherine, and if I'm not, I just want to thank you all very much for this opportunity, and we would love to enter into a discussion if there's time, and if not now, sometime in the future. Thank you.
So next slide, please. So we put our contact information up here for you to jot down if you have any questions for us, and I'd like to open it up for questions right now if anyone wants to ask anything.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Landsberg. Ms. Regale, is there any council member discussion?
On your slide, you showed the areas, states that are accepting, and I noticed that California was not on that slide. How do we look at getting California on there?
Well, I mean, that would be something you should probably work on. If you think that our exams are a fit for what your competence measurement needs are, then you talk to us. But you might also need we're willing to work with you in any way to administratively do what you need to do, but you probably also need like a rule change or a statute change. So that's something they have to work through the dental board and those other channels.
Thank you.
You're
A comment on what Tracy was just speaking of. I know in California the VA system requires that assistants that work in the VA system, they have to have their CDA. That's a requirement. As a matter of fact, they put more emphasis on the CDA than they do the RDA in the VA system, which is fascinating to me. And I think part of that is because of the transportability, reciprocity, because once you get into the Veterans Administrative system, you can transfer anywhere there's a VA across the United States. So that's probably why they emphasize the CDA. But I am a big fan of reciprocity or transportability of licensures. I think that the dental assisting profession is way behind as when you compare to dentistry and hygiene with the REB exams where they could practice in multiple states and have those options. This is something that I love about the DANB certifications, that you can, if you can get in California. If I decide to move out of state, I could still practice. And another thing I'd like to see happen is if you go to a program, say, I went to a program in California. If the program is more comprehensive in nature, meaning there's more allowable duties, it's more extensive than the state I'm going to, it would be great to have them accept that. And I know some states are doing this. I'm still learning about, for instance, the RDAEF reciprocity. I know Tennessee does it, I'm finding out. And there's many states that do that. If you're coming from a more comprehensive program to one that doesn't have as many allowable duties, you're allowed to use your license, which I think is fabulous. Is there any other council member discussion?
Yes, I had a couple questions. I wanted to first thank you for your detailed presentation. That was very good.
You're welcome.
Question about the exam prep. Is that online?
So the Dale Foundation's exam prep is all online.
Okay. And then when they go to take the exams, do they go to an exam site, and is that site proctored? So there are two options. You can either you have the on-site, you can go to a Pearson VUE testing center, and it's a very secure, it's like where the nursing exam is given, they check your ID, you're not allowed to bring anything in there, and it's proctored. We also have live online remote proctoring. So during the pandemic, it became necessary to think outside the box. And there are companies that were already doing this, but it became very, very popular in 2020. So you have you have a specific appointment time, and then a proctor is watching you through a camera, and you have to show your environment to make sure there's no person hiding behind you telling you the answers, or you don't have any cheat sheets around. And then they watch you take the exam. And so you're being proctored remotely. But you can take it at home or at your office or wherever I wouldn't be able to take it at my house because there's so much stuff. They'd be like, that looks like a cheat sheet. But most people can have find a place to do it where they don't have to go to the test center. So it's really opened up the accessibility of the exams if the test centers are far away or the times aren't good for you, or you just don't want to go somewhere because you're being cautious about COVID. You have options now. Okay. And then do you have information on the first-time pass rates for these exams?
First-time pass rates. Not handy, and that's actually, it's hard to get that information because they could take it in 2020 and then not take it again in 2023. And so in order to isolate, has a person who took it in 2022 ever taken it before, there's a lot of, it's a tricky statistic to get out of our system, but we can get it. So if you'd like some information about that, we can provide it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do agree that for the future of our programs here for state of California, this would be very beneficial to kind of link this into having California linked into the Danby process. I think it's something that futuristically we need to look at and see the value of this So hopefully we can try to merge that and get that on there.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any more council discussion on this, so let's go ahead and find out.
So staff has requested that the council consider creating a 2-member working group to continue to research these issues and bring additional information to the council at future meetings. Is the council willing to consider creating such a 2-member working group? Yeah, I would recommend making a motion if that's what the council wants to do before calling for public comment.
Pacheco, I would like to make a motion to create a 2-person working group.
Please, I second that.
This is Tara. I just want to be really clear what the 2-member working group should be doing, and we kind of tried to give the 2-member working group some guidance. It would be to review, these types of education, examination, certification, portability issues, research, dental, auxiliary certification, and education requirements in other states, review the California applicable statutes and regulations regarding board approval of RDA and RDAEF educational programs and courses for potential amendments. That's really what we're talking about. I think Ms. Rita Espinoza asked, how can California get associated with the Danby certification process? And right now, the Dental Practice Act limits how individuals can get registered as dental assistants in California, and just, Danby certification is not one of those paths right now. So that's the whole purpose of this discussion, is start creating a dialogue and starting to understand certification from a variety of different places, and perhaps have some additional presentations from other entities. But the 2-member working group would be doing some of this research and bringing some more information forward.
Should we revise the motion to have to be specific on who's part of that? I mean, who's the 2 members?
I didn't realize I would be a member, so I was seconding that.
Did we write down the motion? Tara said it so perfectly.
Yes, and let me just clarify the motion. And correct me if I'm wrong. So Ms. Pacheco motioned to create a 2-member working group to review these issues, research dental auxiliary certification, and education requirements in other states, and review the applicable statutes and regulations regarding board approval, RDA and RDAEF, educational programs, courses, and potential amendments. And you're member 1 of the working group. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And then Candace Bliss seconded that motion, being member 2. Am I correct?
Open for advice. If anybody else would like to take place, I am open to discussion. Otherwise, I am happy to join Ms. Pacheco.
Would anybody else like to be part of this committee, or really feels they'd like to be part of this committee? I mean, I can make it a 3-member if you need help. How's that?
If you make it a 3-member, it's going to have to be publicly noticed, and, we're going to have to take time and do the 10-day.
We don't need more paperwork. Let's stay to 2.
Okay. So as chair, you can assign who's on the working group, and you may want to get Ms. Miyazaki's voice in here. She's not here today. She may have more time for something like this. I don't know, but you could, put a pin on the 2nd member of the working group temporarily, and seek additional information from Ms. Miyazaki if she's available. And then, looking forward, I think it's to the October meeting, November. By then, you would have already, completed who's on the working group, whether it's Ms. Bliss or Ms. Miyazaki, or if somebody else has thought about whether or not they have sufficient time to participate in something like this. Anyway, you can determine who's on the working group at a later time.
Okay. So the second person, or Ms. Pacheco, did you really want to be in the working group? Is that a confirmed?
I do.
Okay. So if you'd like, I can work to see later who would be the second member on the working group.
Sure. I'm happy to have a pin in it just because of time availability and everything, experience and whatnot so far.
All right, no problem.
Back to it.
Okay. So do I need to restate the motion? Okay, so I can ask for public. All right.
That is just an emergency alert for Placer, Sacramento, and Yolo County. So if everybody can hang on a second, they're just testing the system. So it's showing up on all of our emails and phones.
When she said there might be an emergency, I was like, that's not going to happen.
I thought that's what happens when you say something wrong on the microphone. Okay. Are there any in-person public comments on this agenda item?
Should I go away, or if they want the microphone? Sure.
Thank you. Good morning. Sherry Becker. On behalf of the Alliance, we support the Danby CDA portability. Thank you.
Dr. Bruce Witcher. I'm with CDA, and I was a member of the Dental Assisting Council for about 10 years, so I have some history with dental assisting. I think most of you have probably looked at this website. It's really excellent. It's very deep. There's a ton of information there. I spent quite a bit of time going over it and tried to prepare just a few questions. I mean, just from a global perspective, I have to say that all the dental assistants that I know are trying to leave California, not come in because of the cost of living. And I just lost 4 to other states here in the past couple of years. So that does not help the shortage in this state particularly. And I would hope that maybe people would still want to move here for our wonderful outdoor environment and good weather, but that may not be enough. Just a couple of general comments. I think you're all aware that current graduates of California dental assisting programs would not be eligible for the Danby CDA because they have to graduate from a CODA-approved program, or the other way is work experience pathway, which is 3,500 hours. Right now, you are eligible by work experience if you have your required courses and you have 1,500 hours. So the standards are pretty rigorous, and that may be a good thing, but just, in California, I don't know the exact number, but I think maybe a quarter of our programs are CODA approved. So there's not really that many that would be eligible. Danby has a really nice publication on core duties for dental assisting, which is an attempt, I think, to kind of rationalize dental assisting duties across the U.S. And also, as they indicated, they did do a job analysis. And as we know, California has done occupational analyses for RDA, RDA, EF, and most of the dental assisting categories. I think it may be difficult to compare the duties that fall out of those because the methodology may be different, but it would be something to look at and compare those two, the job analysis with California's occupational analysis. The other thing that I noticed is there really wasn't a lot of detail about educational standards. So I was pleased to hear that they have at least developed a model curriculum for the NELDA, because none of that is really there. I mean, you have an exam outline. It's not quite the same as our exam template that what we have in California. I think it's an attempt to do a similar thing, but it's not quite as detailed. So although they do offer an exam, it's just an exam without any kind of the underpinnings that would go into that, because as we all know, we have very extensive dental assisting educational requirements in California. Some would say the RDA is not extensive enough, that it needs further development. So that's another side note on that. The other interesting issue is this concept of the online proctored exam. And, you know, I live in kind of a rural area, and that would be very beneficial for us. But I do think that that kind of exam has to meet security standards, and I'm not sure that it would. So that might be something that needs to be looked into. The map of acceptance of the certifications, the Danby certifications, is interesting, but I think what it speaks to is you have a wide acceptance across the country for infection control and radiation safety. Those seem to be kind of basic requirements that exist in nearly all states. In fact, one of my most highly trained assistants moved to Tennessee, couldn't use any of her extra duties, in fact, had to retake infection control and radiation safety to meet the standards in that state. So I think that might be why you see broad acceptance, because those are sort of fundamental things. As was referred to, relatively few states actually have a specific Danby exam, only about 7 states. So again, you know, components of the exam, as they say, it's sort of a stacked component kind of approach to certification. That's a little bit different from what we see here. And of course, one of the great challenges is the lack of uniformity of scope of practice for dental assisting. I think the board and probably the council has looked at alignment between the California duties that are allowed by our Practice Act and Danby and found that there are some gaps. And there is a very interesting publication that Danby put out that kind of does a side-by-side comparison of what California requires and what Danby requires, and there's not alignment there. So that would be a good thing to get a hold of and look at. So I would just say a lot of good information on that website. It's going to take a while to figure out how this works for California. As it is presently, most of our graduates would not qualify except by perhaps the few that have over 3,500 hours of work experience. So, you know, this has a way to go, but it's good to open the discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comments, is there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the lines for public comment?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it looks like we do have a request from one individual, Melody Randolph. And Melody, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I'm going to request to unmute your microphone now. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears. All right, you are unmuted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Melody Randolph here, also representing the Dental Assisting Alliance. We have been working hard I'm also current president of CADAT, the California Association of Dental Assisting Teachers. And over the past few months, we have a work group together going over the duties in California as we're thinking about revamping our duties table. And this is one thing that has come up in our discussion. So we're right in line with what you have presented today. And as a CDA myself and previously taught in a Cda accredited program for many years, great supporter of Danby exams and certifications. The one thing I would advise the DAC to keep in mind as you develop your work group is the only thing that seems to be lacking or the difference here is in our certifications requiring lab and clinical components to our certifications. So your exams are all didactic exams and they're wonderful, in my opinion, and I have said this for years, they're very well written, they're thorough, they're accurate, they're valid. But one of the things that we have here in California for our
30
certification,
seconds.
is a requirement to do lab and clinical work in order to be certified. And I would strongly, strongly recommend that we don't do anything to remove those requirements from our certifications, because that makes us very special here in California to have very well trained and clinically proficient assistants. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Okay. So, restate the motion. We have a motion to create a two-member working group consisting of Ms. Pacheco and the second member to be announced later, to review issues regarding research and dental auxiliary certification education requirements in other states, and review the applicable statutes and regulations regarding board approval of the RDA and RDA-EF educational programs and courses for potential amendments. Okay. So I'd like to ask board staff to please call the roll.
This is Morella Turan. I will call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Agree.
Fowler.
Fowler, yes.
Miyazaki. Miyazaki absent. Olagi.
Olagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Pliss.
Pliss, yes.
Reed Espinoza.
Reed Espinoza, yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 8, discussion and possible action to amend Business and Professions Code Section 1752.1, 1752.4, and 1907, and repeal Business Professions Code Section 1752.6 relating to registered dental hygienist application requirements to obtain a registered dental assistant license and permitted duties. I'm going to ask Ms. Parks to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Fowler. Today we'll introduce agenda item 8, which begins on page 33 of your meeting materials. Agenda item 8 is for discussion and possible action to amend Business and Profession Code sections 1752.1, 1752.4, and 1907, and repeal Business and Profession Code section 1752.6 relating to registered dental hygienist application requirements to obtain a registered dental assistant license and permitted duties. The proposed amendments to Business and Professions Code 1752.1 would clarify that non-licensed applicants for RDA licensure would have to provide evidence of successful completion of a board-approved radiation safety and coronal polishing course within 5 years from the receive date of the application. The proposed amendments to Business and Profession Code 1752.4 would make the statute consistent with California's movement to gender-neutral terminology, improve board licensing efficiencies, reduce board staff costs associated with issuing duty-specific RDA licenses, and reduce RDA requirements to submit additional duty course documents to the board. Existing law authorizes the board to issue an RDA license to a registered dental hygienist. However, the application requirements needed to obtain licensure as an RDA are unclear. The proposed amendments to Business and Professions Code 1907 would clarify the application requirements for an RDH to be issued an RDA license, to clarify the allowable RDA functions performed by an RDH, and re-letter existing statute and add new subdivisions that will offer consistency with Business and Professions Code 1752.1. Action requested is for Council to discuss and consider the enclosed legislative proposal, and if approved, Council is asked to make a recommendation to the board to include in the board's next sunset review report a recommendation to amend Business and Professions Code sections 1752.1, 1752.4, and 1907, and repeal section 1752.6 to clarify the application requirements of an RDH to obtain an RDA license and educational requirement to perform additional RDA duties. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Is there any council member discussion?
So you are coming to the board in regards to saying a registered hygienist needs to have a registered dental assistant licensure as well for sealant and coronal polishing. Is this correct?
Well, so we've seen an increased number of RDH applicants, and as the existing law is shown to not specifically identify what requirements are needed for the application process. In addition to that, it doesn't separate the fact, the law does not separate the fact that an RDH who may have already taken the Pitt and Fisher sealants, coronal polishing through their educational portal, it doesn't separate the fact that they wouldn't have to retake a board-approved course in those in order to do those allowable duties. So they would essentially have to retake the course through a board-approved program because the dental board doesn't list them as being board-approved, meaning doesn't list the RDH educational yes.
I just need clarification on, let's see, it is Business Profession Code 1752.4 in our meeting materials, and it's listed as C. It says, except as provided. Where that paragraph starts, you following me? It's on page 40.
The proposed amendments, yes, I follow.
Okay. It says, except as provided in section 1777, the supervising licensed dentist shall be responsible for ensuring completion of courses to perform additional duties and determining whether each authorized procedure performed by a registered dental assistant should be performed under general or direct supervision. So I want to make sure I'm not reading more into it. I just want to clarify, is the dental board suggesting that they will no longer track the ultrasonic, sealant certifications, OAP, and DSA permits? That isn't the suggestion there.
The suggestion is that the supervising dentist would verify that the additional course is approved, unless Tara has further clarification.
So effectively, subdivision C here on in 1752.4 is just moving the current requirement under subdivision B. Let's take a look at subdivision B, which says an RDA may only perform the following additional duties, which is 1 through 4, after successfully completing a board-approved registered dental assistant educational program currently in those duties, or if he or she has provided evidence satisfactory to the board of having completed a board-approved course in those duties. So what we're saying is for only duties 1 through 4, which is remove excess cement, ultrasonic scaler, OA permit holder allowable duties, DSA allowable duties, and application of Pitt and Fisher sealants, because the board currently cannot charge any fee to receive these additional certificates and review it. We're expending
time and money on board staff just to receive these certificates. We can't charge for that. So we're saying that just for these 4 duties, we'd like to move ensuring compliance with taking these certifications to the supervising dentist. And we would accomplish that under subdivision C here, which would now state the supervising licensed dentist shall be responsible for ensuring completion of courses to perform additional duties.
So then they would no longer, those 4, 1 through 4, ultrasonic scalers, OEP, dental sedation, Pitt and Fisher, those type of things, they would no longer be tracked on the website. So how would schools and the public verify certifications and permits? Say someone who's, I'm applying to a practice, I say I'm an OAP, I have my OAP, but is it still going to be tracked on the dental board website where you can look somebody up and see if they're licensed?
If you have a permit, you would still be issued a permit. The board would be tracking your permit. We're talking about these additional certifications that are, you don't get anything really on top of
like
your
the
existing permit. Yeah, you could, but you can only do these additional duties if you have additional certification. You don't get a different type of permit per se.
Right.
Jessica has something?
Yes, Jessica Only. I'm the Anesthesia Unit Manager. I just wanted to provide a little more background, but currently staff has to review the Pitt and Fisher sealant courses, the ultrasonic scaling courses, or excuse me, the certificates, and then we have to add those to the license. The licensee can ask for printing of a new certificate that has that certification on it. This is all things that the board does now. We're not allowed to charge a fee for it. It is somewhat time-consuming to review those courses. We do post the information on our website of courses that are approved, so anyone from the public can go online and view a list of those courses.
Okay. So one of the requirements for running an RDA program is they have to have their sealant certification before applying for the program. And so I am constantly going on the dental board website to check to see if they have that certification in sealants. If it isn't posted online, then I can only take their word for it. Or, you see what I'm saying? Well, getting into a program, how do I meet that requirement?
Currently, the certification is posted to their license, and it is viewable on the DCA license search. What happens is for dental assistants who go through the educational program pathway, that is part of their course, and their pathway to licensure is also posted to the website, so you can see how an RDA qualified for their license. This is more for the RDA who qualifies through a combination of education and work experience or just work experience, that they have to provide those certificates by their second renewal. So again, this would be putting that verification on the dentist. The supervising dentist would be responsible for verifying that the dental assistant has taken those courses, and they can verify that the course is through an approved provider on our website, excuse me.
I just want to add that it's not just taking the individual's word for it. They have to give the dentist, and I guess it's really just the dentist or perhaps an additional program that requires this additional certification. I don't know what that would be, but they have to provide a certificate that was issued by a board-approved program. So it's not, just the individual is just saying, oh, yeah, I took that. They have to, just as today they would submit their certificate to the board, they would submit their certificate to the supervising dentist, or they should. The supervising dentist is always responsible for their RDAs. And so if proof of taking these additional courses is required, the individual has that certificate. So you could rely on that and then go and double check if you were concerned whether or not the certificate was issued by a board-approved program. The board still maintains this list of board-approved courses and programs. We're just trying to streamline and place responsibility for ensuring completion of these courses and these 4 additional duties, where it's just more appropriate. If there's a problem with consumer protection, the supervising dentist is currently responsible for their RDA. So right now we're not seeing an increase in value for the board to receive these certificates and these 4 duties, and then having to process the stuff and research it just to add an additional certification to the website. I mean, if we could charge a fee for that, perhaps that would be appropriate, but we can't right now. So, unless there's some obvious consumer protection value here, board staff is recommending that the responsibility for ensuring compliance for taking courses in these 4 duties be placed on the supervising dentist.
Okay. One more question. So if a dental assistant lost or can't show for the proof of their completion, say of sealants, maybe they took it many years ago or ultrasonic, whatever, and they've lost that, and they can't show proof it, do they need to retake that course? Because of, go ahead.
Well, they could contact the provider, but, it's always up to the individual to figure out how they're going to substantiate their education. If you're taking it from a fly-by-night person and you haven't done your own research to ensure that it's a board-approved program, perhaps they're not going to have the records from when you took it 8 years ago. But it's just not the board's responsibility to maintain original certificates, for all of its licensees and registrants.
Is there any board or council member discussion on this? No? Okay. Is there any in-person public discussion?
I just had one more comment. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's clear that the changes with respect to um, 1752.1 subdivision D, changing up the radiation safety and coronal polishing within 5 years. That was already approved by the board in November. We're just including that proposal within this legislative proposal because they affect the same code section. So that was already reviewed and approved.
Is there any in-person public comment on this agenda item?
Good morning. I'm Ariane Trulay, and I was a past board member. I'm speaking for myself. So I'm just going to say I'm really confused because this, with respect to this, is this about an RDH that was not a dental assistant or RDA applying to get their RDA certificate, so then they both hold 2 certificates? Is that what this is about?
First, I just want to say that this is public comment. It's not an opportunity to have a back and forth dialogue per se with the council, but just to button this up, since it's an easy answer, this does many things, but with respect to RDHs, this is a licensed RDH with the Dental Hygiene Board applying for an RDA licensure with the Dental Board.
Okay.
So they can already do that. We're just trying to clarify that process because it's confusing for staff and RDH licensees applying for RDA licensure. Okay, that's my question. So in terms of looking at that, and I totally get wanting to streamline this, I will pose the suggestion, why couldn't you just accept the dental hygiene training with respect to sealants and automatically approve it? Because you have many hygienists were dental assistants and came through, but the RDH programs have the training. I mean, they do the sealants, they do that. And I understand the dilemma is that, that's not a board certified sealant program, right? But it should, maybe you should look at just approving the dental hygiene program certificates, and that would streamline a lot of this. My concern as a dentist who's dealing with this right now, it's very confusing to dentists when people show us a certificate and say, okay, I took all these classes, I have all these certificates, so I should be able to do the work. But they haven't taken their licensure exam, and they don't have their RDA. And it's really confusing, and that is a part of, public protection and understanding that. So that's really my fear. When you say, let the dentist do it, well, we can, but, I sat on this board, so I understand this. But the person in the office who's just trying to get the work done just sees, okay, I have the certificate, so I have a driver's license, so I can drive, right? So I think that it would help if you could streamline it, absolutely. But putting that back onto the dentist, I think, is problematic in the long term. Thank you.
Joan Greenfield, representing the EF Association of the Dental Assisting Alliance. In regard to the hygiene portion of this discussion, we would agree also with Dr. Trelay that I've had a number of people want to become EFs and maybe either were RDAs or never were RDAs. So they might have been an RDA and let their license go and they became a hygienist. In order to become an RDA EF, they have to get their RDA again. And to this point in time, those folks have had to go back that were licensed hygienists, many for many years, and get X-ray, corona polish, and sealant certification again to become an RDA, and that doesn't make any sense. So for that particular portion of this bill, we would support a way to cross-pollinate, if you wish, or whatever, because the response that I've gotten from the board staff in the past is, well, we don't have any ability with hygiene to verify this person did that. Well, if you are a hygienist in the United States anywhere, those are the three things that are all the same, the educational requirements. Anesthesia, nitrous, that's all different, but sealants and X-ray and corona polish are all nationally accredited at the same level. So really, if a hygienist should be able to show that, there shouldn't be any issue. If you're registered licensed dental hygienist, you should be able to do that. In regard to putting this back to the responsibility of the dentist, I would agree with Dr. Trelay and hopefully CDA that, everybody's busy in an office earning and seeing patients and doing stuff, and to have to keep track of someone showing up with certifications really should be the responsibility of the dental board. If they've completed certification classes that are approved by the dental board and have applied, that should be part of your process that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, will you please facilitate the lines for comment?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it does look like we have a request for comment from Anthony Lum. Anthony, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. All right, and you are unmuted.
Morning, council members. I'm Anthony Lum, the Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board. Sorry I mixed up the times of the start of the meeting. Otherwise, I'd be there in person right now. I thought you started tomorrow. But anyways, I'll be there later this afternoon. Normally between the Dental Board and the Dental Hygiene Board, we really normally have a good communication relationship. However, I was really surprised when I saw the meeting materials and the need to amend Business and Professions Code section 1907, which is under our purview, but was never communicated to me. 1907, in our opinion, is pretty clear as to the dental hygienist who can provide RDA functions. As stated in the law, anyone licensed as an RDH prior to December 31st, 2005 can perform the functions. Anyone after must obtain an RDA license. If anyone asks the board about RDA functions, we reference them back to the dental board's laws that cover RDAs. So that way they get a clear understanding of what they can do. My board is willing to work and collaborate with the dental board on any potential amendments to 1907 and ask for better communication moving forward, since it's what's being proposed is actually changing a law. So just better communication is what my request is. So thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. And Tara, you have a comment?
I have a couple clarifying comments here. First, apologies to the Dental Hygiene Board. I was under the impression that they would be included in conversations about this legislative proposal before it was brought to the council. I understand the concern about individuals who were licensed as RDHs prior to 2005. That provision is still, that would still remain in law under, if you look at page 41, section, Business and Professions Code section 1907, subdivision C, all persons holding a license as an RDH, et cetera, as of December 31, 2005 are authorized to perform the duties of an RDA. That's still in here. What we're trying to clarify is what happens on or after January 1, 2006 for all of those applicants. And with respect to radiation safety, coronal polishing, certification for individuals who probably completed that many years before because they completed it with respect to the RDH license. Now they're applying for RDA. If you look at meeting materials, page 37, 1752.1A, 1 through 3, establishes certain individuals who have to follow a particular path for RDA licensure. Our proposed A4 creates a new paragraph for RDH licensees so that all they have to do to get RDA licensure is pass the exam. So then when you go to page 38, subdivision D, it says very clearly each applicant applying for RDA licensure pursuant to paragraphs 1 through 3 of subdivision A have to provide evidence of the radiation safety and coronal polishing. That does not include the RDHs who are already licensed as RDHs and applying under paragraph 4 of subdivision A. I know this is technical, but we're actually trying to clean this up so it's a lot easier. So 1 through 3, those are just standard RDA applicants. Paragraph 4 is the RDH licensee applying for RDA licensure, and they would be applying and establishing eligibility through their RDH licensure and by taking and passing the exam. Okay. I think that's it. I would encourage board staff to communicate with Mr. Lum with the Dental Hygiene Board before this proposal is presented to the board, potentially at the November meeting, just to make sure that there are no unintended consequences of this legislative proposal. If they have any recommended changes, those could be presented to the board at that time. In the meantime, I think we're still, yeah.
Okay. So myself, Jerry Fowler, would like to motion that the council collaborate with the Dental Hygiene Board to recommend that a recommendation to amend Business Professions Code Section 1752.1, 1752.4, and 1907, and repeal Section 1752.6 to clarify the application requirements of an RDH to obtain an RDA license and education requirements to perform additional RDA duties. Do I have a second?
Pacheco, second.
Okay. Board staff, no further comment? We don't open it up, right? Okay. Before we actually take a final vote, if there's no council member discussion, is there any public member comments? Public present? No? Is there any comments from individuals participating on the WebEx? DCA moderator, will you please facilitate the lines for comment?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the council, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Board staff, can you please take the roll for this agenda item?
This is Marella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, yes.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Miyazaki. Miyazaki, absent. Alagi.
Alagi, yes.
Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Bliss.
Bliss, yes.
Reed Espinoza.
Reed Espinoza, yes.
The motion passed.
Okay, and I do not need to re-clarify that motion, correct? We're good. All right, I'm off the hook. That concludes the August 25th, 2022 Dental Assistant Council meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.